being a fiduciary, I have to be extremely transparent in what we do. So our clients see exactly the fees that we charge, whereas some advisors don't have to operate in that arena.
Hello, this is Mark Silverman, managing member and founder of Silverman & Associates, and I'm also a certified financial planner professional. I want to welcome you to the Saving with Silverman podcast. I'm glad you're here. Each week, we'll discuss different financial planning topics because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
The title of this conversation here is your advisor doing this? And I hope everybody will think about these things. We see a lot of people who aren't getting the kind of advice and service from their financial advisors that they should be getting. In a lot of cases, the advisor is only managing the investments, but not really providing guidance in other areas. So let's talk about some of the things that your advisor ought to be doing. And first of all, reviewing tax returns. Is that something you do with your clients, Mark Silverman?
We do. So, there are different types of advisors, and I've said this before, but I think it's worth mentioning again. I'm a certified financial planner professional, so I've had all the background and training to be a CFP. And my advice is, if you're not working with the CFP, you should be reaching out to your advisor and ask them why they're not a CFP. A lot of people, or a lot of advisors that call themselves advisors, are really nothing but financial salespeople, whether they're trying to sell you an annuity or sell you some mutual funds, et cetera. They're not really looking at your goals. They're just trying to sell you something to earn a commission and hope that it works out for you. So there's not really any planning done or rhyme or reason why they're recommending what they're recommending to you. So there is a big difference in that. But as far as reviewing tax returns, and through our planning process, we will review those. I am not a CPA. We don't do tax returns here. We do tax planning, which is different than actually preparing the tax return. So when we manage money, we will manage it in a way to try to minimize the taxes. So you're not paying taxes on money that you typically are not spending. And there's ways of doing that through a process called tax loss harvesting. If you've heard that term, if you haven't, it's something you should look at. But it's a very important way of doing things. But we do review tax returns and look for some opportunities to try to maximize not just the money that you have, but also try to minimize the taxes that you pay legally. So we do network with other CPAs. So if you already have a CPA, we'll work with that person on your behalf. If you don't have a CPA, I typically recommend that you work with one. We have ones that we know here in town that we know do good work. They're not affiliated with us, but we know they do good work, and we're happy to make those referrals as well. But reviewing tax returns is an often overlooked thing that a lot of advisors don't look at because they're really just looking at the sale, unfortunately, and not looking out for what's truly in your best interest.
Again, a lot of advisors out here don't really evaluate the fees and costs in your investments. And I know that that's one thing that you always do.
We do. And the fees can be a tricky thing. Our industry has certainly made it very confusing, unfortunately. But, being a fiduciary, I have to be extremely transparent in what we do. So our clients see exactly the fees that we charge, whereas some advisors don't have to operate in that arena. There's different rules that apply. If you're working with somebody that's selling you just an insurance product, they're selling you an annuity, you have no clue how much they're getting paid on commissions. I can tell you they're a lot, and that doesn't mean that they're wrong, but that's how that works. Whereas, the way that we do it is we analyze everything. So if you buy a mutual fund, maybe the advisor is getting a portion of that, but there's ongoing fees and expenses, and you need to understand that. Same thing's true with your 401k. There's fees in there that a lot of people aren't aware of. So you have to understand the true cost. Whether you see the fee or not, it's there. Nothing's for free. So it's important that you understand that, and we can help you determine and get you a ballpark or a figure as far as what you might be paying. And then you can determine if that makes sense or not. You can't determine if you're receiving value if you don't know what you're paying.
It's amazing that some of these folks out here who call themselves advisors don't really discuss and plan retirement income. And by golly, that's one of the main things that you do at Silverman Associates.
Yeah, so we set out goals. So what we do is some people have a few goals, some people have a lot of goals, but part of our planning process is sitting down and really uncovering the goals and looking at those goals and categorizing them into needs, wants, and wishes, and really figuring out what needs to happen, what should happen, what you'd like to happen, and then figuring out if you have the assets to achieve all those goals based on what you want to spend and what you want to do and those sorts of things. And that's actually probably the most fun part of the process that we go through, is really discussing those things and then coming up with an income plan to determine how you're going to fund those goals or not, depending on, it doesn't always work perfectly where, you say you want to do this, this, and this, but you don't have the funds. We'll let you know that. We're not going to make something up. We will let you know with a high degree of certainty whether you can accomplish what you're looking to accomplish or not. But if you are able to do those things, we'll prioritize those and say, hey, you can do this, this, and this. Maybe you can't do that, or unless you do this, or what changes can you make in order to get from point A to point B. So that's really part of the planning process. And unfortunately, a lot of people have never experienced that. And, probably one of the greatest things I go through is when somebody comes in, when they've been working with an advisor, they've talked to other advisors, they say, this is like nothing, nobody's ever talked to us about this before. This is totally different than what we were expecting. I love hearing that, because what I do is totally different than what most financial advisors, or people that call themselves financial advisors, are doing for their clients.
Absolutely. And let me remind our listeners that you can text the word money to the number 21,000. That is, text the word money to the number 21000. And you can download Mark's special report of the top 10 mistakes people make in retirement. Again, text money to the number 21,000, and you can get that for absolutely free. That will make a big difference for you. We're talking about things that your advisors do, various advisors out there, and the things that Mark Silverman does, clarifying the target and goal for each of your invested dollars. That's something a lot of folks don't do, but I know that you've said before that every dollar is like a soldier, and it has a certain job that it's supposed to do, and that's what you make sure happens.
Yeah, money is a tool. And so it's figuring out what each person, and everybody's different, values. So it's making sure your money matches your values. So it's understanding those and putting a number on them and assigning what's most important to you and your spouse, or you and your family, whoever it might be, and assigning those goals and making sure that you have the dollars to achieve those goals. Or if you don't, what can you do now to get to that point? So this is, and I kind of mentioned this just previously, but this is really the part of the planning process where we look at all the goals, we rank those, and making sure that if the assets that you have are invested properly to help you achieve those goals. And if you're not, we let you know that as well. Sometimes we can make changes to get you there. Sometimes you may have to have it's a back and forth process where there's trade-offs. The more money you have, the less trade-offs you have to have. But the more money you've saved, the fewer trade-offs you have to have. And that's a decision you have to make. We help you uncover that and prioritize that. But ultimately, it's you that has to determine what's most important and what you'd like to achieve in your life as far as financial goals.
You're listening to Saving with Silverman with Mark Silverman of Silverman and Associates. And Mark, I know that another thing that you do, it's so important, reviewing family goals and legacy planning. Legacies are, important to some folks, and some folks, they're not important at all, but that's one of the things that you always talk about.
Yeah, we have clients that don't have any children. Maybe the money is going to go to nieces and nephews or charities, et cetera. We have clients that do have children and grandchildren, and they want the money to go to them. And we run both sides of it. Some people want to give their beneficiaries, their children, grandchildren money. Some of them don't. They started off and had to work for everything, so they want to give it to charities, and that's their prerogative. And so we work with clients to help determine that and help things get set up so that their money matches their values and money matches their wishes. And so, at the end of their plan, things are dispersed as tax efficiently as possible to the people that matter most, or the organizations that matter most to them. So, legacy planning is a big part of what we do. It's part of the planning process. And unfortunately, like I said, a lot of advisors out there aren't having these conversations with their clients because either one, they're not qualified, two, they don't care, or three, they're just trying to, sell a product and move on to the next one.
You've been listening to the Saving with Silverman podcast. If you have any questions at all about your financial situation, please give Mark Silverman a call. Again, his number is 520-333-7601, or go online to savingwithsilverman.com. For Mark Silverman, I'm Ron Stutz. We'll see you next time on the Saving with Silverman podcast.
The Saving with Silverman podcast is brought to you by Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC, based in Tucson, Arizona. The show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and everywhere you listen to shows. Subscribe to the show on your favorite app today and never miss an episode. Just search for Saving with Silverman to find us, or visit savingwithsilverman.com to listen to past episodes, to contact Mark, and to learn more about how to make smarter decisions with your money.
Did you know that Mark Silverman also has a radio show? Tune in to Saving with Silverman Saturdays and Sundays at 3 p.m. on AM 790 KNST.
All matters discussed on this show are for informational purposes only. Opinions expressed are solely those of Silverman & Associates Wealth Management LLC and staff. All topics covered are believed to be from reliable sources. However, Silverman & Associates Wealth Management LLC makes no representation as to its accuracy or completeness. The show shall in no way be construed as a solicitation to sell securities or investment advisory services to residents of any state other than Arizona or where otherwise permitted. Topics should be discussed with your individual advisor prior to implementation. Fee-based financial planning and investment advisory services offered through Silverman & Associates Wealth Management LLC, a registered investment advisor in the state of Arizona. Insurance products and services are offered through Silverman & Associates, an affiliated company.